Well, as we reflect on Human Rights Day, we also look at the voices and the role of young people in the liberation struggle. This year's commemorations come as many in South Africa are facing a multiplicity of issues, not least among them unemployment, poor educational outcomes, and again, lack of access to some basic services. We're joined now by the Assembly of the Unemployed spokesperson, Siyabulela Mama, and Youth Capital campaigner, Bonginkosi Nkunu. Good evening to both of you, and thank you for your time. Perhaps let me begin by asking this question, given the fact that both of you represent a constituency of young people. Bonginkosi, what does a day like Human Rights Day mean for the young people of this country?
Good evening. I think for me and other young people of this country, this day means a day that we can remember and be proud of. The one thing that sets it apart from me, because this was a tragedy in 1960. However, when we remember it and commemorate it now, it's something that we can hold and be proud of. Be proud of the sacrifices that the men and women who led the protest and the struggles of fighting to gain our human rights fought for. So it's a day that I recognize as a very important day for me and for other young people as well, because we look at this day and we get energy, we get invigorated to see that, okay, when we are facing issues, because we know a lot of young people are facing issues, there are solutions with working together. So for me and other young people, I think this day represents unity and showing that cohesiveness and working in collaboration with other people brings important results, no matter how hard it can be at the time, but it breeds fruits. As you can see that the struggles of 1960, we are reaping the benefits of those.
Siyabulela?
So this day is quite a very important day, as many, about 89 people have lost their lives and 189 were shot in a strive for a South Africa that is free and a South Africa that speaks to important freedoms for everyone, regardless of class, of race. But this day also makes us think back, because this is also Israel apartheid week. So this day makes us think back, reflect on how our struggle is not free and how we should remember the men and women in Palestine who are still suffering under apartheid. So this is quite a very important day to also reflect on that and how these sacrifices mean today, and how far have we come. And so we reflect, we see how poverty and inequality are the times of our lives, and we face the tragedy of unemployment. So how do we then get this day to motivate us? How do we get this day to struggle and to struggle more? Get this day to motivate us to struggle more for a society that is free from inequality, or from a society that is free from poverty, and a society that is free from unemployment.
Bonginkosi, I want to come back to you. When we look at the state of young people today, you know, we're really seeing a conflation of issues that affect young people, and at the end of the day end up resulting in many young people being deprived of some of their basic human rights. Where are the voices of young people? Do you feel that they are currently well represented?
For starters, I think because young people are so diverse, because young people are different, it differs in age, it differs in circumstances, and the struggles that we face as young people are quite different. So we are a diverse kind of group, which means that representation, and effective and enough representation in the important, especially in the decision-making spheres of the government. We need representation in that part. However, I think youth representation is quite low in those influential spheres and those decision and the policy driving discussions and initiatives. So which means that if we really want to tackle the struggles that young people are facing on this day, we need to include them. We need to make sure that the young people have their voices heard and that they are part of the decision-making committees, they are part of the policy-making committees, and also that they are heard whenever we see an issue. For example, come to unemployment. Let's have the young people who are the primary victims of unemployment. Let's have them drive more of the initiatives that aim to tackle that and have them put in the influential positions and ensure that the representation of the young people, so the young people that are there represent the wider group of young people, not only a certain category of young people, because there will be young people who are fully active in the economy, who have all the benefits of participating in an economy. A young person who's got a job, a young person who's got access to other organizations that can help them, and the young people who is in rural areas, who is far from a lot of things, and maybe who's got only access to non-profit organizations. So that let's make sure that in areas where we include young people, we make sure that they are represented in their diversity, and in areas where we see that young people are not effectively represented, let's include the young people and have them drive those initiatives.
Siyabulela, why do you think that there are these disparities when it comes to representation and, again, when it comes to the voices of young people being heard? Where do you think that some of these stumbling blocks lie?
So as you know, Kathy, there's also the question of experience, and I think the president spoke about this. The question of experience, who has experience. But most importantly, that should not be the question, because you find some young people in good places, in good decision making. What we should be asking, for me, is you get young people into decision making position for what? What do you want them to do? What is the problem? And so for young people to be there, what should shift in terms of the narratives? You want them to be there for what? What's the problem? Because if we must say yes, it's important for young people to be part of these initiatives, to be part of decision making. But will that help? Would young people be in this position help the issue of austerity? Will it help to fight austerity? Will it help to ensure that people in Nelson Mandela Bay drink water, safe and clean water? Will it help to deal with the issue of unemployment, and how do we deal with the issue of unemployment? So we need to ask, as much as that's important, is to also think about for what. Will it help to have a young person to think about a basic income grant of 1,500, because most young people spend about 1.4 a month looking for a job. So will they think about that? So yes, we must have young people, but it's also important to have people who will think around the issues that we face, the structures of this economy, how is it shaped? Will we have young people who will think about how corporate taxes is being lowered, and how do we get back to, and this day reminds us, by the way, because in the 1980s, we had a government which spoke about and which introduced and legalized a corporate tax of about 48%. To this day, the day that we're free and we're celebrating Human Rights Day, that has been lowered to about 24, 25%, while companies are paying 11% of this tax. So what you get young people for what? We need also a narrative shift and an economic shift when we talk about young people. But young people who has a drive and a vision towards shaping and shifting the narratives and the status quo within the economy.
Bongikosi, let me wrap up with you and ask if you feel that right now there is an intentionality, at least from the part of government, to ensure that a lot of the issues that have been raised over the years where young people are affected, that those are actually getting attention.
Yes, I think the issues that have been raised over the years are getting attention from the government. However, I think there is quite an important aspect of this that we are missing. And with the research that I got from Youth Capital as part of the Youth Capital campaign, a lot of times we've been looking at these issues that have been raised concerning young people as isolated. However, I think these issues are we should look at them as one and as systematic issues, because this is a pipeline. If we are focusing on one issue and not the other, for example, education and unemployment, we can't separate those two, because one would go to school, will go to higher education, and they'll start looking for jobs. Other young people will go to school, they will not finish, and they'll start looking for jobs. So then we need to look at all these issues that are affecting young people as connected, and ensure that when we come up with a strategy, we come up with a long-term strategy that will ensure that all these issues, and over time they will be fixed, because these are systematic roadblocks. If I create an initiative today to say I'll get 10,000 young people employed, what is going to happen after that program runs out? That hasn't fixed the other young people who are still in education, who are not looking for jobs. However, if we have a holistic strategy that will include long-term goals to say by this number of years we should have fixed these systematic issues, by this number of years we should be where, I think we will do a lot of damage. And I think that is primarily why we have been facing a lot of these same issues over a large number of years. To say more than 20 years we've been trying to fight the same issues, and that is because we are isolating the issues instead of creating a holistic strategy that will ensure that all the structural roadblocks are fixed and removed.
Bonginkosi Mkunu is the Youth Capital campaigner, Siyabulela Mama, spokesperson of the Assembly of the Unemployed. Let's leave it there for tonight. When News at Prime continues, we of course will still be reflecting on Human Rights Day.